Hi there. We're doing live Dev Brew. Hi, welcome to Dev Brew. This is where indie developers submit their games and I do my best to give feedback on their game design. Today we're talking about A Bit of Tactics by Creamyland. Yeah, and welcome to here. This is Games Over More Coffee, by the way. This logo over here is for my main channel, Games Over Coffee, but I don't have a sticker with the other logo on it. So that's what we're talking about today. So this gameplay, let me go ahead and get this gameplay up for you. This, if anyone knows, by the way, if you don't know where I am, I'm right here. Surprising, right? If anyone knows me by now, I'm not a fan of these types of games because I don't have a mindset for them. I don't have the way it takes to think about these kinds of games. So first of all, I do want to say thank you to Creamyland for submitting this game to me. I thought it was really great to be able to look at this and try to tear it apart and stuff. So yeah, thanks for that opportunity. The thing about this, though, is that when I'm going into a game like this, strategy games or tactics games, turn-based tactics games, because they present themselves in such a very tactics-driven strategy way, it's very difficult for me, a person who doesn't play these types of games, to get a grasp on all the things that I need to take apart. So what's going to be happening is I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to try to take apart the game design as much as I can, but just know that, again, I'm not one to play these games, so what I say, may not be as good as my other critiques, because it is, like I said, it's not my jam. So first, I want to talk about why it's not my jam. Let me get my face up in here real quick. So tactics games are not my jam because the way that I think about gameplay in itself, just when I go to play a video game, I don't think about going to play the game and doing a bunch of other things at the same time. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways that you play different types of video games, but typically when I go into a video game, it's like a thing that I do, right? It's like, I'm gonna go eat dinner, I'm gonna go outside for a walk, I'm gonna take a drive, I'm gonna play a game. Like, these are all separate things that happen on their own. Some people like to do multiple things at the same time. Multitasking, I guess you could call it. But some of those things, like playing a tactics game while listening to a podcast. So this developer, Creamyland, told me that this is something that he does, and I found out that it's actually something that a lot of people do who play these kinds of tactics and strategy games, is that they'll have this on, and then they'll have like a video in the background, or they'll listen to a podcast, or something else is happening, because the game itself is not 100% engaging. It is engaging, but it's not demanding your attention at every moment. It's methodical, right? So as you look at the game, you can kind of, take it at your own pace. So in that kind of sense, it's this kind of relaxing nature that you go into it and you're like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play when I want to, right? The enemies only move when I feel like they need to move. It's all that. So that's the kind of gameplay that I'm just not into. I can't tell you why. I mean, I imagine it has something to do with the way my brain works. But with a lot, I'm a part of a lot of these action gamer people who, like I said, like to focus on the event at hand. And if that event is not super interesting or super engaging, demanding my attention, then I get bored or I get overwhelmed with all the decisions that I have to make. So there is that. However, I do like playing some turn-based games, right? I like playing card games. I like playing things like Cards Against Humanity or chess. I love chess. Back in the day, I played a lot of Pokemon. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. So I do like these types of games. And so I was trying to think of, why is it that I like those types of games? And when I go into tactics games, they're just completely different to me. And I think it has to do with the idea that I'm thinking of video games in a very certain way, right? And the gameplay of these types of games just is not my cup of tea. It's just not the way I think about games. But it is a game in itself, and it is interesting, and it has rules, and it's It's a game. So I figured we should still absolutely talk about it because there's things that I've found out, just kind of playing through this kind of experience here. For one, Creamy Land said that when they submitted this game that they wanted to emulate the same kind of feeling that they get from playing FTL or Slay the Spire or Into Breach while kind of like getting ready for bed, I think is what they said. Have a podcast on, put on this game, and they said it's a very chill thing, and they want to achieve that kind of small, almost puzzle mentality that they have going on here. That's what they want to achieve. And it's difficult for me to understand what that is because when I'm playing this game, I'm not chill whatsoever. But it did get me thinking about turns and turn-based stuff. Not really sure how to describe it, but I know when I'm playing chess, it's something that I can do with other stuff, I suppose, but it's not something that is good. This is actually something really interesting. If you just saw what happened here in the gameplay, this is the very beginning tutorial. The tutorials in here are actually pretty good. I think this is a tutorial. Maybe it's not. I don't remember. Anyway, you can see right here that I died. And then I go to make my move, and then this person comes over and kills me. And now I'm dead, and it says you've won. Not sure why that is. There's also another bug in the game where when you get to the inventory screen, this isn't the inventory screen, right here, that you can't select the top character after you select the bottom character. So if I click on the bottom character, I can't go back to the top. Unless I go back and then back to the inventory, then I can select between them. I'm not sure why that's a thing, but a little bug to see there. Anyway, back to game design stuff. So about decision making and everything. When I'm playing chess, I can think through all the decisions, but for me personally, it's all about internalizing everything, right? So in chess, I already know what every single one of the pieces does in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that one moves that way, that one moves that way. So what happens if they move a certain way? I'm going to respond this way. And then I keep thinking like that over and over. So when it comes to these types of games, these tactics and strategy games, they're basically like a much more complex form of chess where you have limited pieces, though not a whole bunch of pieces, and you don't have to think about an entire board. And in this case, this game is a grid-based game, so you can think of it a little bit more chess-like. But you can think about where your characters move, but then how they attack, and then how your enemies attack and stuff. It's a lot more information than a game like chess. And from what I've understood, people don't seem to internalize these mechanics like I do with chess or like I do with any other card game that I play. In fact, that's a good segue to this next game, Slay the Spire. So I played a little bit of this game, and yeah, I'm sorry that it's small here. Slay the Spire has incredible design. It's kind of like amazing to me that they've designed this game so well. I could talk about the game design of this game for quite a while, but it's a very basic card game, at least in the beginning. Then it grows, I think, increases in complexity quite a bit. There's a map, there's different characters, there's lots of different things that you can do, like not just in the cards themselves, but also items that you have and stuff like that. Crazy amount of I guess depth in this game. I didn't play it a whole lot because it's just not my type of game, but I was able to understand this game almost immediately, and it was because of the way that they taught the mechanics made me internalize everything. That, and also the cards themselves showing you as separate types of things that you can do. All these cards at the bottom here, they're different from just like the different moves that you have as a character when you're playing a tactics game. So, for example, in a bit of tactics, let's get to some combat here. You have your characters there at the bottom of the screen, and you click each of them to see where they can move and what they can attack and all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff is kind of just there on the character, but you have to click on them, and you have to go through your items or your bag or whatever to see what other things you can do. it's all kind of hidden from the player. It's not right there up in your face, which is what most tactics and strategy games are all about. But in Slay the Spire, they're all separate things that are sitting there at the bottom of the screen. So instead of, instead of digging into the character, like for example, this if this was like a tactics game, a regular tactics game, instead of cards, it would just be this screen. It would just be one character versus one character, and then you'd click on him and then be like, okay, do I do I attack this way? Do I use an item or do I whatever? So it's just a very different way of thinking. So I think that's the reason why a game like that is much more intuitive to a person like me, to an action mindset. But yeah, getting to the game design part of this game, everything is designed quite well. There's really nothing that I can say about this game that is bad, except for, there's some bugs here and there, but like the game itself it plays really, really easily, and I couldn't really get past many of the levels. Like I played this orcs level for a while, several times, and I'm just no good at these games. I just really suck at them, so there's no point for me there. But I think in order to, I like this is, it's really hard to talk about this kind of stuff, but if you wanted to create Creamy Land, if you wanted to make this game into more of a mass appeal type of game, something like Slay the Spire, not like FTL or Into the Breach, because those are very different games. But if you wanted to make it something more like Slay the Spire, where a lot of people can understand how to play the game, you would have to teach them every single thing first. And I go much more into detail on this on my main channel, on a Dev Brew that I did on there, for a game called, I forgot what the game is called. Anyway, you can check out my Dev Brew on that channel. I do talk about this quite a bit on there. Man, what was that game called? I didn't remember what that was called. It was a low poly game. Anyway, doesn't matter. The design of Slay the Spire just really does make every single decision understandable from the get-go, and lets you internalize everything. It kind of reminded me of Vampire Survivors, actually, in the way that it's designed. So just to go over quickly here, the game modes. So you do the game mode, and then you have these characters, and the characters, of course, are locked in the very beginning, right? So you only have one character to choose from, which I think is always amazing in game design, because it just forces the player to understand that there's choices that are there, but they can't deal with those choices, or they don't have to deal with those choices right now. Just know that there will be choices in the future, and I love that so much, because that's iteration, and iteration is so good when you're teaching people. So right here it introduces the map, and then you have the legend on the right, and you'll notice that all of the places that you start out are all the same. And there goes my camera. And I really like that, how all of these places are the same at first, and the only one that's different, if you look at the paths that come out of these heads, they're all the same except for the last one, which splits into two, which gives you a very, very basic idea of the difference between these types of paths. So there's not a lot of complication. Again, you're introducing stuff to the player very, very, very simply, one step at a time. So as soon as we choose one, then we get into the tutorial. The tutorial is only 3 pages long, which is great. But also, the way that they introduce this through text is so interesting. So if you know my love for game design, usually I like silent tutorials, right? Because it's very game design heavy. But when it comes to these kinds of tutorials with text in them, Slay the Spire does so well with just simple colors and simple graphic design. There's so much graphic design in this game that really works for it. And you can see this, the words energy are yellow, matching the color of your cursor and the word tutorial down there. It's a friendly color because it's a color that we already know. Again, it's part of our cursor and everything, but it's just highlighting the word energy for us, right? And it's like, 3 sentences, but they're all separated by space. It's enough to make the player focus on one, read a little bit more, focus on the next, and not a whole lot all at once. So the reason why I said that friendly color, yellow, is because they use it again here, but red. And I really like that, because now you have a color contrast, and you're introducing something different. The player understands this word as something different just intuitively, like without even reading the text. You can just look at this and be like, oh, that word is different from that word in some sort of meaning, and it's colored red. So really like that idea. And I also like that at the bottom of the tutorial it says page 2 of 3, like it tells you how long it's going to be. And then, yeah, so it basically just very simply explains what the mechanics of the game are, which is just to attack and build up block, and that's it. And that each one of these cards uses energy, but so much graphic design, dude, in this game, so much. The energy, you know, is a very bright orange. It's the same on every card up here. In fact, it's even hovering a little bit above the card. Your cards are outlined with not only red border of each one, which I think is the type of card, I'm not sure yet, but above that you have the blue halos around them to let you know that these are separate, you know, from the rest of the game. And then when you hover over them, man, it's so interesting. They have these notes that come up. If you hover over the bottom of the card, the note explains this, again, using the same yellow highlight. It has block up there, and then it shows the rest of the text. And what's really interesting about this is when you get to a card like this one, it shows vulnerable over at the note. And just below vulnerable, again, it has the highlight of the words, the 50%, and it's in blue. Again, it's just to let the player know that there's separation here, that there's something different. And also the cards that they're presenting with you here, there's only 3 different types, but I have 5 cards, so 4 of them are kind of the same card. I have 2 blocks and 2 attacks, and then 1 different one, which is this vulnerable one. I don't think that's random. I'm pretty sure that's on purpose, at least in the beginning. Again, limiting the decision. So from all of that, geez, that it's so much. You can tell that game was really, really, really well play tested. This game, for a bit of tactics, when you're introducing the player to these things, if you wanted to go the Slay the Spire route, which you don't have to, because I'm pretty sure this game is already going to catch on with a lot of audiences who like this kind of stuff. The way that Slay the Spire does it is through a bunch of very, 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 very simple introductions, right? Just give the player almost no chance of failure at certain things, but just in the beginning. I've talked about iteration before, but giving them, you know, a very low threshold of error, you know, I think, or high threshold. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But anyway, yeah, that's my view on how to introduce this game to other people. As far as the game balance, as far as the combat is concerned, I mean, everything plays really well in the game. I don't really think there's anything that you need to do to the game that's different other than, you know, better graphic design. I mean, it, like right now it's fine, but like I didn't ever have a problem finding anything, which is great. I think the art style in here is fantastic. I think everything just looks fine. There's nothing bad about any of it. I would, you know, focus more on trying to separate things a little bit cleaner, you know, instead of just white text that's centered, maybe, you know, have a left justified. Very simple stuff like that. Adding some color highlights, making the font maybe a little more grouped. So right here, instead of saying 3 attack tier 1 common melee, maybe have them a little smaller or have them in their own box or something like that. Something to the proximity principle is what I'm talking about here in graphic design, if you want to look that up. But everything else, you know, follows suit pretty well. It's pretty easy to see where I am, what I'm doing, stuff like that. Yeah, I can't really talk about, like I said, I can't really talk about the balance of the game. I can't really talk about the difficulty or the combat intuitiveness. It's just because that's not the thing that I do a whole lot. So I can't speak to that nature of it, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if you've achieved what you want to. I'm not really sure how to help you achieve what you want to. This is typically why I try to research a lot about the games beforehand. And I am researching still a whole lot about this genre. So I'm not super I'm not super informed about this genre right now. But your game did make it pretty easy for me to grasp onto these mechanics. So I think that's a thing to be proud of. you were able to take someone who was of an action mindset and be able to guide them pretty easily through all of your really simple design of me being able to look at something and understand it from the get-go. So that was really cool. But that's all I really have to say. Unfortunately, like I said, there's not a whole lot I can do for you here. So I hope that was in some way interesting, at least. Thank you for submitting your game. I hope to see, honestly, I want to see a game like this that introduces the player in the way that Slay the Spire does, because I've never seen a game go so hard on incrementing their teaching as much as Slay the Spire does. In fact, there's another game called Inscription by the same people who made Pony Island. And I was really interested in that game because I really liked Pony Island. And I played the demo of Inscription, and it's iterative, but it does not do enough. It doesn't teach the player, at least in my understanding for this genre. It's a card game, and it does not do as much as Slay the Spire does. There's so much in that game. I think it's actually held back from its style, from its tone, because it's trying to evoke this very specific kind of tone, this kind of horror monotone kind of thing going on. But yeah, that's what we got going on. So that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I can study more of this game design so I can actually help people with this design at some point in the future. Thank you so much, Creamy Land. I will see all of you guys later. Bye.